also a time where we read a little bit of viewer mail. For the year 2024, we get a lot of viewer mail. Dear Wilds, love the show. Why, thank you. Just do it. Be a good teammate. Sincerely, Ryan and Brian. Kind of an esoteric thing from Ryan and Brian, but I understand it.
There you go. That's really me. That is really me. I spent 30 minutes posing for these pictures.
Why? Greg, does it take 30 minutes to pose like that?
Clearly. I mean, you really want that to be you, huh, Brew?
What, is that below your standards, Greg?
Yeah, that's...
Oh, to Greg. That's
Greg doesn't like the
Everybody's
definition.
not a bodybuilder.
Wow. Wow. Greg also loves cowboy brews, so he's not.
I do. I don't like that.
That's the real cowboy.
Okay.
Thank you, Wild. All right, at number 3, Patrick Mahomes. I don't know if this is a Bud List debut or not.
Get the board.
But it's rare. Well, I'm doing this. Nick asked me yesterday, put a Chief on the Bud List for motivation. I'm doing it for that reason, and I felt bad for yelling at him yesterday. So I'm putting Mahomes on there. Again, this is just major motivation. I mean, you are 3-0, right? You're beating 2, maybe 3 teams that we all think will be pretty good in the league. So, you know, you're doing okay. But you said yourself, you weren't happy with last season. You're not playing well. So we know you want to do more. Those of us who picked you, including myself, to win the MVP in the preseason, we want more from you and expect more. So that is why you are on this week's Bud List. Interesting numbers, 4 interceptions, Patrick, through your first 3 games. That's the most you've ever had in your first 3 games in your career. It's only 2 fewer. He's only had 6 in the first 3 games of his previous 6 years combined. So that's 18 games. You've only had, 6 interceptions. You got 4 in the first 3, and only 5 touchdowns. That's the fewest you've ever had in your first 3 games of a season. 7 was your previous fewest. So obviously you're not playing up to your standards. And so the Chargers are a nice test. They've only given up 11 points a game. They've been good against, the pass, good against the run, and they've only allowed 2 touchdowns in the entire season so far. So this is good for you. Patrick, look, I was the first one to call you Jordan-esque. Some say I was the first to call you the boat. There's a little argument about that. But some say I was the first to call you the boat. So I believe in you. Go out there and get it done. All right, at number 2, Caleb Williams. All right, now, look, you've been improving.
It's like
Caleb.
Spider-Man meme.
You definitely been improving. We obviously know you only threw for 93 yards your first game. Second game, looked good in the pocket. Looked a little more, good on schedule. You did have 2 interceptions, but still, there was improvement. The third week, same thing. You threw your first touchdown. You actually had 2, threw for a bunch of yards. Did have 2 interceptions, but we see the improvement. It is unfortunate, Caleb, that people expect so much so quickly from you and just from rookie quarterbacks in general. But the fact that it's not fair doesn't change that's the fact. People do expect more from you, and they're always going to. So go out there and get it done. This week, you're facing a guy that was a hero of yours that you looked up to. He was inspiration, Matthew Stafford. Don't get caught up in trying to equal Matthew Stafford. Don't get caught up in trying to do what Jaden Daniels just did on Monday night. Just go out there, play within the system, take what they give you. And if you get the opportunity to make a hero play, fine. But go out there and play well. And listen, I know I've been tough on you, but do not mistake tough love and constructive criticism for hate. Caleb, I believe in you.
Wow.
All right, number 1. That shocked Nick Wright. Yeah. Number 1, Micah Parsons. Now, Micah, you were my preseason pick for Defensive Player of the Year, and obviously so far you looked anything but. All right, no sacks, no tackles for losses in your last 2 games. I mean, that is unbelievable, and your defense has been wasted and embarrassed for the bulk of the last 2 games. So you need to go out and do more. There are some saying that you have been a better podcaster than player this season.
I don't know if anyone's saying that.
You said it, so you're the one I'm talking.
The podcast has been getting better.
But Micah, you got to go out there and get it done. You know that I think you can. You got the Giants, all right? The Giants. So pound them. They're tomato can. Trample on them. You got Daniel Jones that nobody believes in except Greg Jennings, who still thinks he's a top 10 quarterback in the league. Go out there, sack him several times, turn MetLife Stadium into Jerry World, okay? And again, like Kayla, I'm tough on you, but I'm old school. I'm hard-nosed. I'm old-fashioned. Do not take good old-fashioned, grab the face mask. Come here, son. Motivation. Don't take that as hate, Micah. Come here, son. You're better than that. That's what I'm saying. I believe in you, Micah Parsons.
Wow. This is an all-time Bud list. That was all-time.
It's just the real. It's just Greg had that type. Greg had that type of coaching.
I mean, I'm
he knows that.
Phrase.
Yeah.
He had that type of what?
Greg already abandoned Daniel Jones.
You are no. Have you abandoned Daniel Jones?
It's interesting. I'm not going to address that right now. I'm going to throw my guy on the Bud list because he's been catching strays too, and I'm here to motivate you. Justin Fields.
Wow.
Because you are a 3-0 quarterback, and seemingly you are the one quarterback outside of probably the Prince that was promised, who's being questioned about whether or not they're the future and starting at that position. So I thought about it and I said, you got to put one together. You got the Colts coming up. I understand. Everybody's running on the Colts. We get that. But we got to see more from you in the passing game just to create some separation that your head coach was looking for before training camp closed. Now, I'm on your side because I'm going to put up some numbers and some stats of the other quarterbacks that have won 3 games thus far through 3 weeks. And these are the facts. He's a winning quarterback. He just hasn't had the splash game that some of these guys have had in the past or are currently having. But when you look at the completion percentage, I mean, hey, he's right there with them. Now, I'm not saying you're better than these guys, but I'm saying
you might be better than one of them.
You deserve some more respect. Look at the touchdown to interceptions. Again, 2-1 because you guys are running the ball. You're winning by way of your defense. You're not turning the ball over, all the things. But look at Mahomes. Look at the rest of the guys. Passer rating, 95.3. Everybody wants to knock it. But it's not that bad. Obviously, you got Sam Darnold, who's having a great year right now, who some think who's going to turn into a pumpkin. So, I mean, you should be up there. You are going to have a game, have one, create some separation. I believe in you. This is your team. You are the starting quarterback moving forward, my friend.
A for effort, Greg, but you might be setting him up for like, you know what I heard from that? Justin, sling it! Throw it around the yard, baby! Go do your thing. I like the effort. You're trying to get him to do his thing, but I don't know, man. You might be setting him up for a 2 or 3 pick game.
You clearly don't believe in Justin.
You might be setting him. He wasn't on my Bud list.
Exactly. He's on mine.
You might be setting him up for a 2 or 3
He just
pick
can't
game.
quit Russell Wilson. He just can't quit Russell Wilson.
That's why.
Yeah.
No,
exactly.
I'm
He
Okay,
just
yeah.
can't.
You didn't hear slinging. You didn't hear throwing it around the yard.
I was listening very closely to Greg. I never heard him say the words sling it, and I never heard him say throw it around the yard.
I picked it up.
All right. What's my role on Thursdays?
Unfortunately, and no one asked for this, but the media ombudsman.
Sports media ombudsman.
Sports media ombudsman.
So I survey all of sports media and figure out what needs to be ombudded these times. Before I even get to that, one serious note in sports media, shout out and congrats to Zach Lowe on a legendary run at ESPN. Legendary. Almost reframed the entire space he's in. Don't know where he's going next, but he's going to do amazing things. Congrats to Zach. Remade a whole genre, in my opinion. Now, to the actual business at hand. Ombudding the sports media, which includes sports Twitter. And NFL Twitter has been invaded by anonymous accounts that have seemed to try to ruin a portion of this season, which is every time the Kansas City Chiefs play a football game, they try to shape a narrative about what they do and don't want to have happen in football games. So in week 2, when the Chiefs won a game because of a fairly called pass interference, they shaped the narrative of, oh, it's the right call, but you don't make it in that time. And then in week 3, when the Chiefs won a game in part because a late pass interference was not called, they shaped the narrative of, oh, they would have lost, And they were supposed to make the call in that time, which has made, listen, most people have jobs, they have families, they can't be watching all games all the time. They're like, man, all these crazy calls at the end of games sure seem to only happen in Chiefs games. What if I were to tell you the leading candidate for MVP and the leading candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year, if they had these terrible Twitter accounts scouring their every possession, they'd be dealing with the same thing. Hey, Josh Allen, you're 3-0.
I know.
Are you really? Because
alert.
this is how week 1 ended.
Back to
Up
back.
6 with plenty of time. The most blatant pass interference of the season. He tackles him. Does anybody even remember that? Is that ever discussed? No, of course not. What about Jaden Daniels? When Joey Cool's trying to save his season, critical 2-point conversion. Oh, nobody cares. He gets lost to the histories. So here's what I would propose, Ref Twitter, because you don't actually like football. You just like these checks from Elon every 6 weeks so you get engagements. Stop it. You're ruining the game. And you are convincing people the fix is in. It's because of Taylor Swift, all of it. And it's making otherwise smart people dumb. So it's not worth the $46 a month you get from Twitter for the views. Just quit it and let us all watch the games.
Tackle the guy in the end zone.
Which one? Which one are we talking about?
Falcons game.
What about those?
I had the Cardinals upsetting the Bills. I remember there's 2 pass interferences back to back.
So is it possible that the actual story is refs miss a lot of calls and not the fixes in for Kansas City?
I don't know what's happened.
I look, Nick, you know this. Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
They don't even wear the crown. The Bills are the best team in the league. Josh Allen's the MVP. That's what everybody tells me.
Stop whining! Heavy is the head that wears the crown.
I like this new attitude on the Bud list.
The Bills fans, the Bengals fans would love to trade places with you and be the 2-time defending champs and take the Twitter criticism. That's all I'm saying.
Do we all yell it during it, or should I just kindly, Travis Kelce, catch the ball?
You know I got energy now to drop the job.
Travis Kelce hasn't had a super productive first 3 games. Mahomes said it's not a big deal. Defenses are respecting him. Rashee Rice is getting open. Greg said that's developing important rapport. Just a moment.
These guys are always about to cry.
Man, like they're 3-0. Don't laugh at him.
I know.
I'm not laughing at him. I find it endearing.
It is very
I didn't
endearing.
expect it to get emotional.
Yeah.
He talked about his production.
Again, as I talked about podcast leading editors, when the host of the show says take that out, and you're not live, probably cut that. But it was good and it was heartfelt. And I do think that Travis is going to break out against the Chargers. The question I have is Mahomes going to force the issue a little bit? First half of the game, when Collinsworth, I'm sure the Chiefs are not listening to the broadcast, but when Collinsworth was saying, like, I'm surprised Travis is not, getting a lot of targets and he's on the bench kind of sad. The first play of the second half, go to Travis right away. So can Mahomes just, the question I have is this, and Brew, you can take a shot at it. Has the noise reached the level where Mahomes is going to be like, you know what, I can just solve this by throwing the ball 10 times. We're going against a Chargers team that is playing great defense but is a little bit banged up. So do you think Mahomes is going to say, I'm ready to dead this narrative right now, I'm going to feed Travis?
I think that's a great question because obviously Mahomes is just trying to do what's best for the team to win. So it's hard for me to see him forcing it, but he's also good enough where he could force it to Kelce and just get this, let's dead this.
That's right.
And going. So Nick might have a better answer than me.
Well, I just don't. I think, to be honest, I think that part of Travis's lack of production thus far this year has been because Patrick hasn't played up to his normal standards. I also think, and I'm not butting anything, so much of this, look at his yards, look at his numbers, would not be a story if his 41-yard catch hadn't been waved off from an illegal hands to the face by a lineman. That had nothing to do with the catch, nothing to do with anything. I know we can do that with a lot of things, but it's so glaring because he doesn't have a splash play, and people are like, is it because he's old? It's like, well, I saw him have a splash play. Yeah. It just got wiped off, and they're double teaming him. I think Rashee Rice is awesome. I don't think he's the best receiver in football, but his numbers have been in line with that because And so if they start shifting a little coverage towards him, then I think Travis.
But how new is the double? I mean, they've obviously always put a lot
they're
of
gonna give him
attention
the ball.
on Kelce.
They're going to give him the ball.
They're going to get him the ball.
How many catches? Right?
He's going to end this game with at least 6 catches.
6 for 74?
We can call it 6 for 7.
Okay. Brock Bowers had 6 for 58 week 1.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.